It is exactly 8:47 a.m. This is News and Views on Salam Media. And of course, we're going to be covering that global story that is making waves all around the world. And that has to do with Trump's executive order here on South Africa. And AfriForum, of course, has been fingered in this situation. We also know that Helen Zille made a recent visit to the US and the UK, and on her return to South Africa, she had made statements to the effect that Trump is very serious about how he views politics all around the world. And if South Africa steps out of line, we will obviously be bearing the repercussions. So we know that there's the issue regarding land reformation, which he seems to have taken umbrage against, and of course, right wing supremacists in our country as well, who's been feeding the rest of the Western world misinformation regarding the situation about land expropriation. But I think more than land expropriation as well is the issue that South Africa has taken apartheid Israel to the ICC and the ICJ for their part in the genocide on the Palestinian people. Sorry. Let's talk to Nkazimulo Moyeni of the PSCU. A very good morning to you. Welcome. Sorry, I have a frog in my throat. Please continue.
Not a problem. Good morning, assalamu alaikum to everyone and listeners as well. Thank you for having me on the show.
Alaikum salam. And would you like to respond to my opening statement?
Yes, as the resistance against the impunity movement, we have taken a stance to call upon the government and all forms of movements, leaders in South Africa to take a stance and take action and hold AfriForum accountable for this misinformation, this deliberate misinformation and the campaign that they've undertaken to actually create this idea that there is a specific target on farmers in South Africa, and there is this mass genocide that is happening in South Africa. And now we have seen actually the repercussions and the consequences of that. That the United States of American president has signed an executive order, and the consequences of that is that people with humanitarian aid will be cut off in South Africa. And now, obviously, that means innocent people and the vulnerable who would rely on this aid that was utilized for things like ARVs and particularly many other things to mitigate socioeconomic issues will now suffer simply because of misinformation and a violation, if I would say, of national and international law that is committed by AfriForum with the stance that they have taken. And obviously, we know this is particularly because of the action that South Africa has taken in supporting Palestine and holding Israel accountable and taking them to the International Criminal Justice Court, the ICJ, and eventually leading to, or influencing rather, the warrant arrest of Benjamin Netanyahu that was issued by the ICC. So all of this is all of this action that stance that we've taken, which has been our policy as South Africa since the beginning of '94 in supporting Palestine, which also has been our policy and part of our principles in South Africa in supporting any other country who supported us, by the way, when we were under, the apartheid regime. is to support them and extend ourselves in whichever way that we can. So I believe AfriForum has is action, especially now where they have now backtracked from where they've backtracked from this a stance that they said because they hadn't uh, foreseen the consequences and how far the consequences would go, are now backtracking. They should be held accountable. There should be repercussions that are made and taken for this, this misinformation, misrepresentation, and deliberate act of of alleged treason in this country. And we should call it what it is, and that's what it is. You went out, you took, you funded a campaign. You're going out throughout the world, creating this idea and this image about what is happening in this country. And we've seen this before, even during apartheid in the 1975, in the 1970s, 1980s. This is what they did. They created a narrative. They went out there in South Africa to create a narrative to promote the idea of apartheid and what it looked like. And, and creating this idea that they have to protect themselves against the so-called communists of the ANC and the other political parties who are fighting for the rights of their people. So we've seen this before, and it's happening again. And we see the repercussions of now running to Big Brother, in utilizing resources to leverage and punish, ordinary South Africans and ordinary South Africans who have embarked on this journey since '94 to build a country of non-discrimination, of equality, of oneness, as we have taken a stance in '94. So I believe
Okay, so let me come in here. Let's look at the AfriForum's conduct. We know is not just immoral, it's unlawful both under South African and international law. What actions do you believe they constitute? And also, in light of AfriForum's blatant betrayal of the country, um, what are the demands as far as you as PS, PSCU? Uh, what are your demands on AfriForum? I've been following the story very closely, as has the rest of South Africa. And a lot of people were suggesting that AfriForum should be charged with treason. But I've heard legal arguments that you can't charge them for treason. So, where to from here then?
I believe, well, firstly, we need to consider policies, acts uh, uh, um, contravene in South Africa uh, international uh, uh, um, scale.
Okay,
In
I'm
South Africa,
losing you there. Nkazimulo, I'm losing your sound.
hear me now? Is that
Yes,
better?
loud and clear. Just remain in that position.
I'm saying we have to take into consideration the acts and the regulation and the statutes that they have contravened in South Africa and on an international scale. In South Africa, for instance, we can look at things like the PEPUDA, which is the Prevention Against Unfair Discrimination Act, which specifically sets out how to, set out the consequences of when people contravene certain clauses and policies which are implemented in line with this act and in line with the constitution. And secondly, on an international law basis, policies and stance that have been taken by the United Nations and now are indirectly leading the United States government to also contravene international law, such as the non-prevention principle, non-interference principle that has been, and America, like South Africa, is a signatory of the United Nations and is bound by the principles of the United Nations. So what then has happened is that these principles and these statute has been contravened. the action then must be taken by the government is not only to go about creating policy and statute and acts that ensure that even in the future, such action taken by any other organization, entity, or individual in this country will suffer the repercussions. The actions I believe that must be taken, there must be research, an investigation done against the Alpha Forum. We must investigate the type of funding that may have received for this narrative and for this propaganda. We must also research and investigate the AfriForum and any other institution or any other individual or entity that has misrepresented and taken deliberate action to create this idea about the Expropriation Act, about South Africa, and about the stance taken by our government. And the repercussions that must follow must be in line with the severity of that action and the consequences that came about it. So AfriForum and Solidarity are organizations. They are they have juristic body, they're a juristic person in this country that can be taken to court, that can be held accountable, that can suffer the consequences, whether on a civil or on a criminal basis. But action needs to be taken by our government. And beyond taking that action, we need to take measures in making sure we prevent this by creating policies and by creating an act that will ensure that even in future, anyone, if it's an individual who posts a TikTok, it's an individual who posts a tweet and misrepresents what is happening and standing in the way in the progress that is being done, implemented in South Africa to redress the issues of the past, which is what the Expropriation Act is trying to do. Then there should be repercussions because we are on a we are on a mission for nation building, ensuring there's equality, ensuring there's unity with everyone within this country, and such acts and stance taken by AfriForum, Solidarity, or any other institution, organization, or individual is actually in contradiction and contradicting and holding us back and taking us from the
Okay,
and
right.
implement.
Unfortunately, that's where we'll have to leave it. Thank you indeed for your input. This is obviously a very serious issue and a developing story. It's not going to go away overnight. So we will continue discussions on this issue. Thank you indeed, Nkazimulo Moyeni, Resistance Against Impunity Movement. Much obliged for your thoughts on this matter. Take care and
Thank
God bless. It is 1 after 9 o'clock. And that this hour of news and views is sponsored by Africa Muslims Agency. Africa Muslims Agency, a beacon of hope to communities for over 35 years in Africa and beyond.